It's 11:38 p.m. and you're still at your desk, staring at a transcript that doesn't add up. You work compliance, numbers, statements, interviews that usually end in paperwork and warnings. Nothing dangerous. Nothing that keeps you up like this. But this one is different. A man you questioned that morning, routine financial fraud, gave you a name that isn't in any database you're allowed to access. He said it quietly, like it mattered more than everything else. You flagged it. You weren't supposed to. At 11:41 p.m., your office door opens without a knock. Two people walk in. No introductions. No badges. Come with us, one of them says. You don't ask questions. Something in their tone makes it clear this isn't optional. You grab your jacket. Your phone stays on the desk. You notice that detail too late. They drive you across the city in silence. No conversation. No explanations. Just a route that feels deliberate, like they've done this before. You're not scared yet. Not until the elevator goes down, instead of up. Level -2, then -3. The doors open to a corridor that doesn't exist on any map. They take you into a room with a table, 2 chairs, and a man already sitting there. Hands cuffed, eyes steady. You asked about a name you shouldn't know. One of them sits behind you. Now you're going to ask him again. You turn slightly. I'm not trained for her. You are. The other one cuts in. You just don't know it yet. The door closes. You're alone with him. He studies you for a second, then smiles faintly. You're new, he says. You sit down because standing makes it worse. You don't have a script. No protocol. No authority. Just a man who knows more than you. And a system that expects you to prove something. You remember the transcript. The way he hesitated before that name. The way his tone changed. You lean forward slightly. You said something this morning. You say, a name. He shrugs. Doesn't mean anything. You watch him. Not what he says. How he says it. There's a delay. Half a second. Too controlled. You don't believe that. You say, he smiles again. You're guessing. You shake your head. No, I'm listening. Silence. You let it sit. Don't rush. Don't fill it. You've done interviews before. Hundreds. People hate silence more than questions. 30 seconds pass. Then he exhales. You don't even know what you're asking, he says. You nod slowly. Then explain it. He studies you again. Longer this time. You don't break eye contact. Not aggressive. Not soft. Just present. Another 10 seconds. Then, it's not a name, he says. It's a position. That's it. That's all. But it's enough. The door opens immediately after. The 2 people step back in. Time's up. You stand. They escort you out without a word. Back through the corridor. Up the elevator. When you reach ground level, one of them finally speaks. You start tomorrow. You don't ask what that means. You already know. The first week, you're assigned 3 sessions a day. 45 minutes each. No physical force. No raised voices. No visible pressure. Those are the rules. They don't explain why. You figure it out quickly. Pain is unpredictable. It escalates things you can't control. But conversation can be shaped. Your job isn't to ask questions. It's to control outcomes. You start with small cases. Couriers, account managers, people who think they're important until they sit across from you. At first, you rely on patterns. Silence, observation, strategic statements. You don't ask, where's the money? You say, you moved it 3 times in 2 days. That's not normal. You watch how they react. Most people don't resist information. They resist implication. You learn to imply everything. In your second week, you make your first mistake. You push too early. The subject shuts down completely. No eye contact. No response. 45 minutes wasted. When you review the recording, your supervisor pauses it at the exact moment you lost control. Right here, he says. You watch yourself speak. You hear the shift in your tone. Slightly sharper. Slightly impatient. You needed him to talk. Your supervisor says, that's why he didn't. You don't argue. He leans back. This isn't about getting answers. It's about making him want to give them. You nod. You don't make that mistake again. By month 3, you stop thinking in questions entirely. You think in pressure points. Everyone has them. Family, money, reputation, identity. The mistake beginners make is going for the obvious one. You don't. You look for the one they protect the least. The one they don't expect you to find. A mid-level operator sits across from you one afternoon. Clean record. No prior arrests. Careful. Too careful. You read his file twice before entering. Nothing stands out. That's the signal. You sit down and say nothing for the first 2 minutes. He shifts slightly. Not much. You open the file and flip through it slowly. You've never been caught before. You say. He nods once. That's because you don't take risks. Another nod. You close the file. So why now? He frowns. I don't understand. You lean forward just enough. You made a mistake. Big enough to end up here. That's not who you are. He looks at you, confused. You keep going. You're disciplined, consistent, controlled. People like you don't slip. Silence. Then, it wasn't a mistake, he says. You don't react. It was necessary. There it is. Not information. Justification. That's where truth lives. You follow that thread for the next 20 minutes. Not asking what he did. Asking why he thought he had to. By the end, he's explaining everything. Routes, names, decisions. Because in his mind, he's not confessing. He's proving he was right. You let him. A year passes. You don't count sessions anymore. You count outcomes. Your clearance increases. Your access expands. You start seeing what happens after your work. Raids, arrests, disappearances. Names you extract turn into operations within hours. You begin to understand the scale. One conversation can shift millions of dollars or erase someone entirely. You stop thinking about individuals. You think in systems. Every person is a node. Every answer is a connection. You're mapping something bigger than any one case. That's when they assign you your first high-value subject. A diplomat, officially clean, unofficially not. You're given 72 hours. No mistakes. You sit across from him and realize immediately this is different. He's not nervous. He's not defensive. He's controlled. Like you know this won't work. He says. You nod. Not like this. He smiles slightly. Then why are you here? You consider that. Then answer honestly. Because you're tired. He watches you carefully. You've been balancing two lives for too long. You continue. At some point, you stop knowing which one is real. He says nothing. You don't push. You spend hours talking about his routine, his decisions, his compromises, not accusing, just outlining, piece by piece, until the pattern becomes visible, until even he can't ignore it. By the second day, he's not resisting. He's thinking. By the third, he's talking, not out of fear, out of exhaustion. You leave the room with more than information. You leave with confirmation. You can break anyone. But break isn't what it sounds like. It's not force. It's not fear. It's alignment. You align their reality with yours until there's no difference. Until telling you the truth feels like the only stable option left. That realization changes you. You stop seeing resistance as a barrier. You see it as structure, something to understand, to reshape. 2 years in, you stop working alone. You start managing assets. People who used to sit across from you. Now they report to you, quietly, consistently. You don't threaten them. You don't need to. They already understand the system. You meet one of them once a month. Same location. Same time. He used to resist you. Now he brings you information without being asked. He thinks it's survival. You know it's something deeper. Dependence. You maintain it carefully. Not too much pressure. Not too little. Just enough to keep him aligned. You manage 5 like him. Each one in a different network. Each one feeding you pieces of a larger picture. You don't need to interrogate as often anymore. The system feeds itself. 3 years in, you start training others. You watch them make the same mistakes you did. Pushing too early. Talking too much. Chasing answers instead of shaping them. You correct them. Not with theory. With precision. Pause here. Wait longer. Don't ask that. They listen. Some improve. Some don't. You learn quickly not everyone can do this. It's not about intelligence. It's about control. Control over others. Control over yourself. You lose some of that. Gradually. You start analyzing conversations outside of work. Friends. Family. Strangers. You notice patterns you didn't see before. Hesitations. Deflections. Micro-expressions. You can't turn it off. You don't try anymore. 5 years in, you're no longer in the system. You are the system. Your name doesn't appear on records. Your work isn't documented. You're brought in when standard methods fail. One case changes everything. The subject isn't afraid. Not of you, not of the system. He sits across from you like he belongs there. You're wasting time, he says. You study him. You don't care about consequences. You reply. He shrugs. I understand them. That's different. You try everything. Silence. Pressure. Identity shifts. Nothing works. Days pass. Then weeks. For the first time, you feel something unfamiliar. Limit. You analyze him again. Not what he says. What he doesn't. He's not resisting you. He's operating on a different framework. So you adjust. You stop trying to break him. You try to understand him. What do you want? You ask. He looks at you for a long time. An outcome, he says. Not freedom. Not protection. An outcome. That changes everything. This is an interrogation. It's negotiation. You shift your approach. You treat him as an equal, a player, not a subject. You leave with partial information. Not everything, but enough. And something else. Perspective. You realize something you've ignored for years. You don't control everything. You never did. You just controlled enough. 10 years in, you don't sit in rooms anymore. You design them. Systems, protocols, frameworks. Others execute. You predict. You analyze data streams from dozens of operations at once. You see patterns before they happen. Almost. There's always uncertainty. That's what keeps you here. You make decisions that affect people you'll never meet. Approve, deny, redirect. Each one carries weight. You don't feel it the same way anymore. It's quieter now, more distant. You remember your first session. The man, the silence, the first crack. It felt like control. Now you understand. It was the beginning of something else. Something you don't fully name. You sit in a room with no windows. 3 screens. Live feeds. Reports. A new interrogator appears on one of them. First session. You watch for a moment. He sits down. Nervous. Focused. He thinks it's about questions. He thinks it's about answers. You see the exact moment. He realizes it's not. The pause. The shift. The beginning. You look away. There are other decisions to make. Other systems to manage. But you know what happens next. Not just for him. For all of them. And for you. Because it doesn't end. It doesn't resolve. It continues. Always. With new subjects. New interrogators. New outcomes. Different variables. Same system. You don't break people anymore. You build conditions where breaking is inevitable. And somewhere right now, someone is sitting across from someone else, thinking they're in control. They're not. And you know exactly how long it will take.